Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got myself into this situation.
Welcome everybody to GTO Optimized Hand Review. We're going to examine this hand through the lens of a fish theory optimal expert. And through my in-depth analysis, you guys should have a better understanding of how to crush your local 1-3 games. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The hand begins with a hijack open to 7,000. It folds to Wesley on the button, and he peels a beautiful ace-king offsuit. Like any reasonable player, he 3-bets up to $30,000. This is a pretty big sizing, but they're also playing extremely deep. So I like it. You want to pump more money into the middle with your good hands. The blinds get out of the way, and the GOAT, Tom Dwan, 4-bets up to 100K. We have no idea what Tom has. His card reader malfunctioned or something, but it's honestly perfect because it builds a ton of suspense. LSG Hank stands up for some reason, like he's in a 6 spot. Dude, you're facing a cold 4-bet with ace-8 off. You can just fold. Stop wasting everyone's time. Action returns to Wesley, and he goes for the 5-bet up to 275K. If you're wondering what I would do in this situation, I'm 5-betting all day. I love ace-king. It's my favorite hand. Live by the ace-king, die by the ace-king. Don't care. Tom thinks for a little bit and ends up making the call out of position. This brings up an interesting question. Is Tom Dwan's range capped? I don't think it is. Pros really aren't going to have a 6-betting range because it would be impossible to balance. So that means Tom's calling range includes hands like jacks plus and ace-king. I'll make one caveat though. Tom could potentially 6-bet jam pocket kings here, but only if he knows his opponent has a 5-bet bluffing range, like suited wheel aces or ace-10 suited, stuff like that. Those hands have a ton of equity against pocket kings, and it's not the worst idea in the world to deny them that, because they would snap fold to jam, obviously. Pocket aces doesn't have this problem, so it's going to be flatted 100% of the time. So we're off to a flop with two almost identical ranges, the only difference being Wesley might have a little bit more pocket kings than Tom. The flop comes 8-8-3, 2 diamonds. Tom checks. He's doing this with his entire range, so this isn't surprising. Wesley then goes for a small continuation bet to 125K. It's funny calling a 125K bet small, but in relation to the pot, it is. Overall, I like this sizing. I think if I had pocket aces or kings, I would do the same thing. Keep pocket queens and pocket jacks in there. Size up later, but for now, we want it to look like we have pocket aces. Tom makes the call, and we're off to a turn, the 5 of hearts. This card changes absolutely nothing, so obviously, Tom goes ahead and checks. With ace king here, I'm hating my life, and I think it's pretty obvious Wesley is too. Nevertheless, Wesley decides to go for a bet of 350K, still repping aces and kings. And you know what? That's his right. That's what you get to do when you 5-bet with ace king. At this point, I'd be praying that Tom has ace king as well and mucks his hand. That doesn't happen. Tom makes the call, and now I'd be praying for an ace or a king. At this point, it's pretty obvious that Tom has a big pair. We block aces and kings, so there's only 6 total combinations left of those hands that Tom could have. Whereas there's 12 combinations of pocket jacks and pocket queens that could be played this way. So when the river's a complete brick, the 6 of clubs, and our opponent checks to us, we have a decision to make. Give up and definitely lose, or risk almost $800,000 on the ballsiest bluff in the history of televised poker. There's 3 combos of snap calls, pocket aces, 3 combos of very likely calls, pocket kings, 6 combos of 50-50 with pocket queens, and 6 combos of a likely snap fold in pocket jacks. With these assumptions, about 53% of Tom's range will fold to a jam. For a half-size pot bet to be profitable, you need your opponent to fold 35% of the time. So if this is in fact Tom's range on the river, this is a plus EV bluff. It all comes down to whether or not Wesley has the balls to try to pull this bluff off. And he does, guys. He rips in Tom's last 780K and begins maybe the biggest sweat in the history of cash game poker. He evades the snap call, which is great news. Tom gets up to get a water, and Wesley just puts his head on the rail, probably feeling like he's about to puke. This could be a tell, but honestly, if he had aces or kings and wanted to call, he might do the same thing because he's worried about giving something away, especially against one of the greatest players of all time in Tom Dwan. What would have been a tell, though, is if Wesley just started projectile vomiting underneath the table. I think if that happens, Tom Dwan just snaps him off. Luckily for Wesley, he fades that situation, and it's all up to Tom to make the call. After a brutal 4-minute tank, Tom finally calls and tables pocket queens and takes down the biggest pot in televised history. Honestly, a super sick call. He only needs to be right about 25% of the time, and he has 57% equity against a range of ace king, pocket aces, and pocket kings. But those numbers only apply if Tom believes that Wesley is willing and capable of bluffing over $1 million across 3 streets with ace king. Honestly, one of the sickest calls I've ever seen. When I was watching the hand live, I thought Tom had pocket kings and was already in a sick spot. When I saw he made the call with pocket queens, I couldn't help but think that this is the sickest poker player probably to ever live. Huge props to both players for having absolute donkey nuts during this hand and giving us one of the most memorable moments in poker history. If you guys thought this hand was sick, just wait for my 1-3 session at Chasers in Salem, New Hampshire. That vlog is coming Monday. Stay tuned and don't forget to like and subscribe.